This is the Heroes Podcast. I'm so happy to be back again with Lee Broders. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you, Andre.
Well, I'm glad you're here. And what I'll do, I'll just intro you a bit for everyone so they know who we are meeting here today. I've been looking forward to this interview, and then we will dive into your story. So, Lee is an international business mentor, life coach, and a professional speaker with over 25 years of experience transforming businesses, helping entrepreneurs scale to seven figures and beyond with strategy growth. Ooh, I love that. I want to know more about that one. A British Army veteran, he overcame burnout to reinvent his career, blending resilience, leadership, and real world experience. Lee inspires audiences with actionable insights on business growth, leadership, and success to unlock potential and achieve extraordinary results. Welcome. I'm so excited. Uh, Lee, did you want to take us back to the beginning? How your background, how your life started? Have you had any struggles?
Well, I think everyone has struggles, and those people that say they haven't aren't quite telling the truth. So for me, I had a great upbringing. I had a loving family. Um, I love school. However, I didn't do too well at school, and that was because when it comes to the fact of learning things, I wasn't learning things the same as other people. So I got called stupid and an idiot by a teacher because I couldn't recite my times tables, or some of my times tables. But going on, you think about it. But as I said, I enjoyed school. I was doing really well. And then at 16, we had to have exams. And the amount of hormones that are running through our bodies when we're 16 is, well, I hate to think, but I thought it was much more fun going out with my mates. So I actually didn't get very good qualifications, got 1O level. And I joined the British Army, joined the corps called the Royal Signals and became a technician. Again, I didn't do very well academically. I got back termed, but I managed to push through. I learned a lot about resilience and went off to do my commando and UKSF courses to serve with both units. So that's how I started and learn about resilience and keep going. And I think the Americans call it grit. Those were the things that I had from a younger age. Now I joined the army at 16 and a half and I left at 26. So that was the start of my journey. Now, the journey then is we're told in school that we should get a job, work hard, get good qualifications and get a job. And in the military, when you're getting out, you get the same sort of mindset where they say, well, if you do this course, you can go and work for this company. And if you do this course, you can go and work for this company. And I'd actually got myself a job. And within a month of coming out, it fell through. And I was left, well, lost, I suppose is the best way to say it. And at the time I was doing, not supposed to be doing it, but cash in hand jobs. So I was working 4 jobs and one was in a pub. And someone said to me, Lee, why don't you start your own business? And I went, don't be so stupid. I have no idea what I could do. I don't know about business. I've come out of the army. What do I know? And that at the age of 26, when I started my first business. And that was the start or the beginning of my journey into who and where I am now.
Wow. And I'm wondering, how did you go with your first business? Because I don't think the army is a great business school. Maybe it is. And obviously there must have been principles to apply. But I'm really keen to hear about your early days as an entrepreneur.
So I think you're right. I don't think that the military is a good business school, but what it does, it gives you great lessons that could be used in business and when you come out. As I said, resilience is something I talk about quite a lot, mostly about my failures and how keeping going. My first business is still running. It started off as building computers, turned into an IT consultancy, and is still running with me not involved in it as much as I used to be. So I've got other people running the business, and that's still going. I've got another business in property. Again, I've got a property portfolio that somebody else runs. So for me, it was always about, into my latter years, was about looking at how I can extract myself away from businesses so I can create a spaceless business and a timeless business. They were the two things that I learned about rather later on. I'd just been doing them quite early on, if that makes sense.
That's very intelligent. I'm really surprised that you still have your first business running. Now that is something. Most of us entrepreneurs, for example, myself, probably I drove 4 businesses into the ground. And I've never had that in mind that, hey, I want to extract myself or replace myself and keep it running. But what would you say? I'm wondering, how do you see where business owners, entrepreneurs are going wrong? What's the big 3 that you've seen over and over again?
I don't think there's any wrong or right way. And the reason being is there's some people that I work with who are really successful, and they're doing the day-to-day grind, they're doing the work, and they're enjoying it. For me, it was about extracting myself out so I could do other projects, other businesses. I'm involved in quite a number of businesses, but I only run, or am actively, and I think that's the word, actively involved in 2. One of them is an AI platform creation, digital innovation studios, and then the other is my mentoring and my coaching business. So they're the 2, and I need to be active in those because really that's about me giving guidance to my clients. But wrongs and rights, I think there's a lot of people that start a business and they get so embedded in the business that they can't ever extract themselves out. That is probably one of the things. But what happens is things get piled on them and piled on them and piled on them until literally they're carrying the weight of the world and that business on their shoulders. And then they start suffering. And one of the questions I ask is, and it's going aside, is most of my clients, one of the first questions I ask is, what would happen if you took a week off? What would happen if you took a month off? And what would happen if you took 6 months off? Now, a week, most people go, ooh, could be a bit dodgy. A month, be really struggling. 6 months, what business? And we're told that the harder we work, the better we are and more productive we are. And I don't always agree with that, because the smarter we work, the better and more effective we can be. I'm a great fan of the E-Myth and the E-Myth Revisited, and one of the words that always come to me is, and I talk about it, is delegation by abdication. Now, one of the frameworks I use is LPAD, and it's learn it, perfect it, automate it, and delegate it. That's what we should be doing. And a lot of people who, as I said, delegate by abdication, don't do the learning part of it. I didn't. I used to do marketing, and I didn't like marketing. I didn't really know how to market. I wasn't a marketeer. So what I did is I got someone to market for me, and I thought, yes, they'll do perfect. But I didn't have anything to measure it by. So when they're doing their stuff and I'm going, oh, that sounds really good. Yeah, you obviously know what you're doing. But nothing happened. And I realized that if I can't understand it, how can I get somebody else to? So my whole thing about LPAD is you learn how to do something. Now, you don't have to be the best at it, but you have to understand it. And then you can perfect it. Now, with perfecting, you need to turn it into a process that you can use yourself. And then what you do is you actually get it so that you can actually have that process and get the same result each time you use it, every single time. What you can then do is either automate it, or you can delegate it. And when you delegate it, you get someone on who's got the right attitude, aptitude, and adaptability. And you show them how that process works. And then what they get is the result, if they follow the process, that you had. Now, that's one of the things, people being so embedded in the business that they go through burnout. I've been there. That's why I'm quite vocal and an advocate of being able to step away from your business. The other one is they get lost in their own mind. They chase the next shiny object, which isn't a bad thing, but you need to actually make sure that you're finishing the job you're doing. I can be terrible at this, and it takes a lot of effort, but how I do it is I plan what I'm doing. People, they take the Michael out of me because I will plan time with my family. I'll plan time on at this business. I'll plan time on that project. I'll plan time with my book writing, or whether I'm writing a talk. All these are planned in, and I use time blocking, which for me has been a great tool. So I'll say I've got an hour, and I'll do it. Now, if I don't get it finished in that hour, I stop, and move on to what I'm supposed to be doing. But then I'll revisit it, one, if I get time, but at the next time I've got the time booked in and blocked out for that project. So I think that, I don't know if I've answered the questions, but those are some of the things that I find people have. They're so embedded in their business that they drown in a business, and it isn't fun for them anymore.
Yeah, it makes sense. I came across business owners, as you said, who have been hiring professionals and paid those large amounts as far as marketing and all other services, and then they didn't even have a specific goal. And I'm wondering then, how, if it's not measured, then how professional were they? I understand they've been professional at marketing themselves as a professional, but obviously there are a lot of marketers out there who are great at doing ads and catch people's attention, yet, as you said, basic understandings of KPIs and how you measure whatever it is, it's basically signing your business away to someone else who will not care that much.
Yeah, and it's not only signing it away, it's you lose control. Not it's not doing what you need it to do. Like I says, for me, it's about learning, getting people on who are aligned with who you are, what you are, and what your business does. But as I said, most people do get embedded in the business to the point of they burn out. They lose the passion, the reason why they started it, and then they just give up.
So what would you say? What is different about you if it comes to business coaching? Like, if someone puts their hand up, hey, I want to have an experience of lead, what happens?
So it's interesting because most people go, oh, you're really successful. And one of the things I do talk about, and I'm quite open about, is I've probably failed at more businesses than I've been successful at, for whatever reason. So when I said people give up, I've been one of those people that have given up after flogging it, and all the resilience, I can't fail, I can't fail. But then from that failure, going, well, actually, I did this wrong. I marketed this wrong. I chose the wrong product. People working with me is they get me, warts and all. I've got experience in the military, so I talk about discipline. I can talk about I can guide people around resilience. I can guide people around burnout, the mistakes that I've made, so they don't have to. I've spent, and I was one of the things. I've only ever worked for 3 people in my life: Her Majesty the Queen, God rest her soul, my ex-wife, and my wife. But also, I've worked in corporates. I've worked with small business. I've worked with startups. And for me, every business is individual, and every business owner is individual. So they get I suppose my guidance. But I won't teach anybody anything. It's not for me to tell people how to run their business, because as far as I'm concerned, not only are they the expert in themselves, but they're also the expert in their business. So there's no use me going and saying, oh, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do that. That's consultancy, and people get paid a lot of money for that, and I used to do that. For me, I get more satisfaction and fulfillment seeing business owners take their own journey, because I'm not here as the hero of their journey. They're the hero. I'm just here as the guide to help them get over the sticking points, possible problems. And as I said, they get my experience. They also get experience of my clients as well. Problems that have happened, that or issues that my clients have had, that I can relate back to them. So, as I say, I know I'm not the best mentor and coach for everyone, but for the people that do work with me, they get results, and for me, results are important. I'm not someone who says I can change your world in 90 days, because I can't. What I can do is I can guide people over a period of time to make their life and business better. As I said, for me, it's about having a spaceless and a timeless business. A spaceless business you can do anywhere. A timeless business, you do not have to be going into the office every day or into the workshop or whatever, because you've either automated or delegated the tasks that you don't enjoy doing. Now that's going to be a caveat. If you enjoy doing something, why would you not do it? And then when you stop enjoying it, then you can move it on to somebody else.
Yeah, it's powerful. What would you be celebrating, Lee, in 5 years' time? Things went really well.
5 years time, I celebrate with my clients. I've written that I'm the grey man. I'm the one behind people's success. So what I get is I get the chance to work with some amazing business owners and to see them grow their life. I've never had £1 million business myself, but I don't want £1 million business. That's the caveat. I don't want to be working at the amount of time when I can be doing other things, like writing, like working with, well, not so much working with clients, but other things I want to do. My whole thing is I want to live my life how I want to live it, not how somebody thinks I should be living it. So I define success as having time to do what I want, when I want, and with who I want. So I'm very selective with clients. I'm very selective with my time, but I get to celebrate with some amazing business owners who've just hit 14 million turnover in April, last April, through working together. Was it me? No, I didn't do the work. I don't do the work. I'm there like, I think one of the hero's journey, but I'm there like your story brand. I'm there like the Obi-Wan Kenobi or the Hamish. I'm the guide that will help you because I've been there. I've done it. I've stubbed my toe, swore, and then fallen over, hopping around because I've stubbed my toe. And it's about being able to get up. It's not about not making mistakes and having failures. It's about how you react to them and how you can respond back and stand up. We all fall over, and having someone alongside you just to give you a hand up is probably one of the most important jobs I've ever done.
Wow, I really love that approach. Do you want to tell us what do you love doing? You said I want to do what I want to do. Like, what's your typical day like? I know you're living out in the country. Uh, what is it? What is it like to live Lee's life daily?
Um, I enjoy it, but then that's for me. So I get up early, and if I'm at home, I'll go to the gym. If I'm away, I'll do some physical activity. I do believe physical activity is good for you, even though it can be hard. My day starts with that, and then some learning and some mindfulness. My learning is normally a language. I use Duolingo. Love it. It gamifies learning. Gamifying anything is really good because people get more involved. And then some, as I said, some mindfulness, some meditation, some breath work, some yoga. And that's how my day starts. I then sit down, I reflect on what happened yesterday and what I want to do today. As I said, I have a plan. My day is planned out. Now that planning could be writing some social media posts, which is a daily thing for me. And then it'll block off. My clients take priority. But I don't work with a lot of people at the same time. I work. I say I work with a max. I've ever worked with a maximum of 20 people, and it was. But normally I work with between 10 and 15 people at any one time, and that's across business mentoring, and also executive coaching and life coaching. So my days are planned now. Even the time of planning for lunch or planning for dinner. And my days split up between my clients. If I have a client, they are center and focus for that day. And a 45-minute for me is a half hour before, making sure I'm up to date, where we are, what we're doing, what their I'll say tasks or goals that they've given themselves on the last session. 45 minutes, an hour later, I then have another half hour, one to come down, to debrief, energy, rebuild myself up, but then also to journal, to make sure everything I've got down so that I'm in the right place for them for the next session. But I sit down, I reflect, I write, I enjoy writing. I've really got into my writing. And then sometimes I'll sit and watch some telly in the middle of the day. How terrible. I'll sit with my wife, me and my wife Diane, we'll sit and watch some telly. We'll watch a series or an episode or two of a series because it's my time. And I get to do that, and I get to spend time with Diane, or we'll go for a walk, or we'll go shopping in the day. But aren't you supposed to be at work? Well, this is it. I can go shopping whenever I want because I have the time to do it. For me, the most valuable thing we have is time. And if we don't watch our time, or we spend our time doing things we don't enjoy, for me, we're wasting it. And I've wasted time terribly in the past. And it was only when I went through burnout that I realised how valuable time is. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question. I plan my day. What I will caveat that with, though, is every day is different. And every plan is written in pencil. Because I don't care how meticulous you are with planning, things change. And it's about understanding that it'll change. No, in the army, no plan survives its first contact, which means you can have the best plan in the world. When things go wrong, that plan disappears. But what you have to be able to do is plan on the fly. So I've had it where I've had a client, and so client, I've got a client booked in, I'm ready. Laptop decides to die. I'm like, oh, no. So what's the plan? Well, actually, I have to think about it. Well, actually, I can use my phone. Okay, I'll use my phone, set my phone up, have the call, get it recorded, make sure I'm doing that, and then I can go and fix the laptop, which takes half a day because we all know laptops are or computers are so clever, they never want to work when you need them. So that day that I'd planned had to change. So all I had to do was work on the fly, adapt, and make sure that I could get back on plan, and then follow the plan for the rest of the day and change what I was doing. And that for me is hugely important in life, in business, in whatever we want to do, because if you don't plan, you're not going to get there. It's like sitting in a sailboat with a huge wind going, I don't know where I'm going, so you just follow the wind. Well, you don't know where you're going. How are you going to get there? How do you know when you've arrived? Again, I talk about defining success. Well, what is success to you? Is it having a great title, having a big house, having lots and lots of money? It's different for everybody. So once you've defined your set, and then you define how you're going to get there with your goal, and that goal is decided on the plan, and that's, but it has to change. But I think one of the things is, I remember being told, if you know what your why is, when things go wrong, you'll still know what to do. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I love your approach. I think it really sums up. Once I was reading, I think Andy McNabb at SAS. I think they had these 6 P's. He might be using in the military. That really is this. I think it said proper planning prevents peaceful performance, something like that. Yeah.
I sort of in the military, it is, and it is true. If you plan it, it will happen. It might not happen as you'd expected, but it will still happen.
I do believe that, yes, priorities do pop up and they cannot be ignored, especially when it comes to, connection or even being able to do your business. And I relate to this so much because I basically have 2 phones and a laptop. Again, making sure that I'm ready if something collapses, and it does. And I obviously work from sometimes on the road or sometimes in caravans. But Lee, what would you say? What have I not asked you today that you really wanted to share?
That's a really good question. I love sharing, as I said. For me, seeing people succeed, I'm one of the strange people who enjoys seeing people succeed. Not about me succeeding. I'm happy with where I am. I don't have to work. I choose to work, and work is different to a job. I always explain a job is doing work for somebody else and making them rich. Working for yourself is deciding who and what you do, who you work with, and what you do. I don't know really. The questions you've asked have been really, really insightful, and I've been able to elaborate. I suppose it's, where do people want? What I always say is, what is your why? And good old Simon Sinek's start with why. It's a great starting point. As I said earlier, if you know what your why is, even when the plan goes wrong, you'll know what the objective is and you'll get there. I'm a great believer in, and I'll use someone called David Heimer. He's nicknamed the Rhino. He talks about massive goals, and he's interviewed a lot of people around massive goals. And I'm a great believer in that. And for me, it's dream bigger by design. The bigger your dream, the more chance you've got of getting it. And I remember my mom, God rest her soul, always saying, Lee, you always aim too high. And I used to go, well, if I aim here and get it, and then someone said to me, if you aim for the moon and miss, you're going to hit the stars. And I was like, I like that. I might not make it to the top, but I'll certainly be better than mediocre. And none of us want to live a mediocre life. And I think that's what it is. It's about, for me, people understanding that they define their success, whatever it is. And we get told what success is. As I said, it's a big house, a big car, a fancy title, money, whatever we're told success is. But when we define success for ourselves, it could be going on holiday 3 times a year to different places, or even the same place. It could be spending more time with the family. It could be running a successful multinational business. But it's what we as individuals deem is our success. As I said, people, I think I alluded, people say, oh yeah, you're quite successful, Lee. Yeah. What they don't see though is the failures that have got me to that success. The times I've fallen over, scuffed my knees, had to get back up. And that for me is why I enjoy doing what I do, because we all fall over. It doesn't matter who you are, and we all fall over. And when you've got someone who's rooting for you to be successful, that makes a huge difference, especially if they can guide you on certain things. And I remember when I first started sort of coaching and mentoring many years back, and I started looking at who had been coached and mentored, and you find that Richard Branson had been mentored with Virgin Atlantic by Sir Freddie Laker. Sir Freddie Laker was one of the first British holiday airlines that were started. So you look at Mark Zuckerberg, he was mentored by Steve Jobs. All these people have mentors and they're successful. And I suppose that's what I enjoy what I do. As I said, I'm quite selective about the people I work with, because and it's not because I only work with successful people. I work with startups, and some of the startups I work with never get past the start line. But the second and third time that those people start doing it, they get a lot further each time, because they keeping on going. And whoever's in business, it's about resilience. It's about keep going, because you never know who the next person you speak to could be. The customer, that your ideal client, could be an investor, could be someone who wants to buy your business. And that for me, I always believe people meet people for a reason. I work holistically, which people go, oh, is that woo woo? For me, but it's not. Holistically is the whole thing, looking at everything in life and business. Because if you're telling me your business isn't growing, well, what's happening at home? If you're telling me you're having problems at home, what's happening at work in your business? And it's the little steps that you can take, not the huge, massive, I said massive goals. Brilliant, yes. But you get there by one step at a time. So the 1,000-mile journey starts with the first step, the second step, and it's done 10 steps at a time. It takes you time to get there, but the more you do, the faster you get, the better you get. And soon you're doing 10 miles a day. Soon you're doing ultra marathons, and all these things happen from resilience, and again, consistency, compounding, making sure that you keep pushing. Because if you don't, well, what is it you want?
That's powerful, Lee. Well, I really love this conversation. I would love to keep it running for another few hours. But I will have your details under the video, your website, and how to engage with you. Thank you very much for your time, Lee. It was eye-opening to hear your philosophy and how you approach business and life.
Andre, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I know, because we've talked about this, we've been trying to, and when I was saying about plans that don't always work, I think we've scheduled this call in probably 3 times, and this was either the 3rd or 4th time, and something's come up. But it's happened. So, and this is the start of it. So all I can say is thank you very much, Andre, for allowing me to come and chat and speak, and hopefully give, even if someone picks one nugget, takes one nugget away from it, and they can improve their life, that for me is worth millions.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Lee, for your time. And guys, follow Lee, because he is sharing his wisdom daily on his social media channels. You find it under the video. Thanks very much and see you soon.
Thank you.